What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 204 of Hashtag AskGSM here today for October 25th, 2017. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. We almost didn't even have a show here today, so real quick, and I tweeted about this last night, but I was in class last night, and the teacher's going on about chlorophyll and God knows what, but I'm on my computer, and I find out that at the Rhode Island Comic-Con that I might be going to, and I say might because I haven't got my tickets yet, but I really want to go. My roommate texted me about it a few months ago and saying that Dave Bautista was going to be there, Sting was going to be there. Sting's there on Saturday, Bautista's there on Sunday. I would go on Sunday because I have to meet fucking Dave Bautista. Anyway, so we were going to go anyway, and there's a lot of other stars there, and apparently they've added new stars, new celebrities, notable names in the last few weeks, months, whatever. And I looked it up during class last night, and I found out fucking Christopher Lloyd, Dr. Emmett Brown, is going to be there. Now, to you, that might mean nothing. It might not mean anything at all. For me, it means everything. This guy does not do any public appearances anymore at all. You might know him from Back to the Future, my favorite movie of all time, all three of them. Specifically the second one, but all three really in general. From Back to the Future, Taxi, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, all those movies. The guy is a fucking icon. I almost had a heart attack when I saw that in class, so I have to go. That's in 2 weeks from this Sunday, November 12th, I believe. I have to fucking be there. I cannot miss out on my opportunity to not only meet Bautista, which is going to be epic alone, but meet Christopher Lloyd at long last. That has been a dream of mine for almost a dozen years, people. This is a big fucking deal. Anyway, let's get back to something wrestling related here with hashtag AskGSM. Pretty notable week. Pretty interesting week in the world of WWE between TLC, Raw, and SmackDown. TLC was good. I watched it with Jason. Shout out to Jason for having me over his place on Monday to watch the show with him. Raw sucked. I hated Raw a lot. And that's not like, me being a smark every week. I hate Raw. No, I'm one of the more positive fans you will ever talk to when it comes to specifically the WWE. And I could not help but fucking go off on them this past week, specifically on Twitter on Monday night after I watched Raw. I thought it was a fucking terrible show. I thought that was an awful episode of Raw. SmackDown was not that much better, so we'll talk all about that here today in hashtag AskGSM. Also, quick plug, be sure to check out Wrestle Rant Radio on Thursdays. A new episode coming tomorrow, hopefully with my old co-host, Tommy Sharp. He's back to help me break down the TLC pay-per-view and everything else going on in the world of WWE right now. And I said it last week, and a bit of an update, Wrestle Rant Radio is now on iTunes. Download the podcast in your podcast store, the App Store, whatever, Apple Podcast, if you have an iPhone, whatever. Type in Wrestle Rant Radio, go to shows, subscribe to the show, you'll get all the new episodes. We have a bit of a dilemma. By the time the next episode comes up, 205, and it won't be a Cruiserweight theme show of hashtag AskGSM next week, hopefully by that point I will have, actually next Wednesday is the deadline, so I ran into an issue last Thursday, real quick before we get started here, that I can't upload any more audio files on Podbean for them to sync into iTunes because I uploaded so many in the last week and a half, so I have to wait until the end of the month. So I believe on November 1st I could start uploading audio again. As of right now, the first 3.5 years of Wrestle Rant Radio are on iTunes. So you can check out the very first episode. I sound like fucking shit. I know I sound like shit now, but it was way worse back then, almost 4 years ago when I first started school in college, and it was not good. But you can check out those episodes with me flying solo, talking about WWE and beyond, everything else, TNA 2 at that time. You can check out the episodes from 2014, 2015. Every episode from 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016 is on iTunes. You can check out all of them. If you've been on the show before, type in your name in the search bar on the Apple Podcasts, with the exception of maybe RJ and Tommy, who I don't put in the title because unless they guest started or something. But beyond that, I don't put them in the title because they were my co-host for such a long time. But if you're a Clark, a John Ritland, a Marlon Phillips, any one of you guys, there's a lot of you that have been on the show before, just type in your name in the, Apple Podcast app, and then you will find your episode, the episode that you guest starred on of Wrestle Rant Radio. So, with all that being said, let's get started here with the October 25th, 2017 edition, episode 204 of hashtag AskGSM here today. First question, or before I even get started, I hate to keep on delaying this, but if you guys want to send in questions, tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment/question on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. Last but certainly not least, drop a question in the comment section down below. I'll include it in next week's edition. Anyway, guys, let's get started with Emmanuel A. from YouTube. His question was, have you heard about Journey into the Darkness, the unauthorized history of Kane? It was a 2005 WWE published fiction novel written by Michael Chiappetta. If you want something that explains the complicated backstory of the Kane character in effective detail, you might want to look elsewhere, as the writing of the book is all over the place. For just one example, to explain why Kane used a voice box to speak during the beginning of his WWE career, there are 5 instances throughout the book where Kane lost his voice, and only the last one actually ties into the reasoning. So believe it or not, Kane got into a fight before his debut with Gene Snitsky, who strangled his throat, damaging his vocal cords. The book goes on to explain, however, that Kane quickly got his voice back, but Paul Bearer wanted him to use a voice box for his gimmick. So Gene Snitsky was around during the Kane debut in 97? Never knew that. No, I've never heard of the book. It sounds fucking terrible. That sounds awful. I will stay away from that. I know there's a lot of, I guess canon might be the right word. There's a lot of books out there that try to pretend they're in the WWE canon. Like, there were books that were a part of the Star Wars canon that were just way beyond belief, that I had a hard time trying to comprehend what was going on and whatever beyond, what we see in the movies and the immediate, programming on TV of Star Wars, that none of it ever really made any sense. They would bring people back and they would kill people off without explanation. That's kind of what this sounds like, so I won't take this under consideration when I'm looking for new books to read wrestling-wise. Next question from Captain Sunshine, also from YouTube. I thought TLC would be the weirdest show I saw this week. Then I saw Raw, which thought Asuka versus Emma needed more offense on Emma's part, thought Kane should beat Finn Balor to build up credibility, and thought making the whole SmackDown roster heel would be a cool moment. And what's more, the net reaction to that last one was so, wow, what a cool, so cool, what a moment, actually proving WWE right. Do you ever get the feeling that you're not a part of WWE's target audience? No, not really. I understand what you're saying. I mean, for me personally, and trying to be positive about the product, I do find not all the time, more often than not, I will agree with the internet, with what the internet has to say about most WWE programming. But I'll still try to be positive and look on the bright side and appreciate little things that WWE does. And you're right. On Monday, not the entire internet, but it was very polarizing. That SmackDown invasion we saw at the end of Raw this week. A lot of people loved it, and there was a lot of people who didn't love it, myself included. I fucking hated that. I thought Balor losing to Kane clean was worse. I thought the Asuka Emma thing wasn't terrible, but it is an issue that should be addressed. I mean, Asuka comes in with all this fanfare, all these video packages, and then she has a hard time beating Emma, of all people, who couldn't even make it on TV a few months ago. The same woman that got beat by Nia Jax in 2 minutes a few months ago on TV. So why the fuck would Asuka need help beating Emma? Or why the fuck would she need 10 minutes to beat Emma? And it wasn't even that good of a match. I would understand giving her a competitive match against Emma, take over London, because, Asuka had been around for a while, Emma had been built up, and it was a great match. It wasn't even that good of a match. It was kind of boring, to be honest with you. Both matches. Emma was on offense more often than not, and then Asuka just kind of wins out of nowhere. That's not how I would build up Asuka anyway. I didn't think that was well done at all. Anyway, but with the invasion, here's my 2 cents on that without going into a huge rant. If you want my full thoughts on it, again, check out Twitter from late Monday night, because I was not happy. But anyway, with the invasion of the SmackDown roster on Raw this past Monday night, I wasn't a fan because WWE is trying to make this brand split matter way too quickly. It should have mattered the entire time. When did they start caring all of a sudden about, Raw versus SmackDown? I know we got it last year and they were kind of sort of rivals heading into that first Survivor Series, which is why I was looking forward to it. But since then, these two brands have done nothing to feud with each other. And that's fine. Just don't intermingle talent, which they've done anyway. So fuck that. Not a lot, but they have, with Kane and Jason Jordan and a few others. Whatever. But they have done nothing to establish Raw and SmackDown as rivals in recent months. At any point in the past year have I felt that Raw and SmackDown were ruthless rivals. Yet out of nowhere, SmackDown's here on Raw. We're here to represent the blue brand. SmackDown's the better show. It feels so fucking forced. And that's why the bragging rights pay-per-view flopped years ago. Oh, Raw versus SmackDown, 5 years too late. In 2009, 2010, the brand split meant nothing. And I'm a huge brand split guy. I would much rather have the brand split than not. I just want to, put that out there. But they aren't doing anything to make me think that Raw and SmackDown are at each other or at each other's throats. Having AJ come over to Raw, like if they were such big rivals, then why was AJ allowed to work the TLC pay-per-view for Raw on Sunday night? Why was he allowed to work Raw the next night on Monday? Like if they're such big rivals, then how did that happen? It went on for way too long. I don't like the fact that they turned the whole roster heel for one night only. They were fine the next night, but I fucking hate that guys like Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode are banding together on Raw, but then are back to being rivals on Tuesday because it's not Raw, it's SmackDown, so we're going to be rivals again. I'm not a fan of that at all. I thought that was so dumb. So I didn't want to do that. I was not a fan of that. I would not have done that. I guess we'll see where they go from here, but they're making it try to matter way too little. It's too little too late with this company. Again, I'm not saying the brand split's been a waste, they should get rid of it, blah, blah, blah. I think I'm sure I'm not the only one who thinks that the brand split has been for the better in WWE, but they're trying to make it matter way, way too quickly. Way too soon, and there's nothing really they can do to make me think that Raw and SmackDown have been heated rivals heading into Survivor Series. The whole concept is fucking stupid. And on paper, Survivor Series looks like it sucks. Jinder Mahal and Brock Lesnar speaks for itself. But even the undercard, Ambrose and Rollins versus the Usos, that should be a great match. But Alexa Bliss and Natalya? Baron Corbin versus The Miz? Really? I don't know about that. So I guess we'll see. But I do agree, Raw I thought fucking sucked on Monday. Not only with the invasion, but I thought Balor losing to Kane clean was so dumb. That was so beyond asinine. I could not even fathom why they did that. Oh, we gotta build up Kane for Braun Strowman. Then have him fucking squash Apollo Crews, someone we don't care about. You have a guy, it's like, if Finn Balor's a big name, you gotta give, Kane that momentum. Okay, then, I understand that. Having Kane beat a notable name to give him credibility. I understand that to an extent, but timing is everything. Why would you do that coming off of Balor's biggest win to date over AJ Styles? Why the fuck would you do that? That was a really dumb move to make, I thought. So, I don't know. This company at times does not know what they're doing whatsoever. Elena the Wire from YouTube. I saw all of Ultima Lucha Trace, and I gotta say, after catching up on the first 2 seasons on Netflix and then watching the rest of season 3, by the time it ended, I should say, it felt fulfilling. It's a weird thing to say, but I felt a sense of fulfillment when it was over. There's been a lot of wrestling shows that have been satisfying, but I honestly don't know if I've ever gotten this feeling of fulfillment before from a wrestling promotion. Have you ever seen a wrestling event that made you feel fulfilled? Yeah, I gotta agree. I thought Ultima Lucha Trace, all 4 episodes were great. Lucha Underground in general is just really, really good. If you haven't already jumped on that train, please do so, because the show was really good. And I say was because, a 4th season is yet to be announced. As of right now, that's it. I guess season 1 after it ended, we didn't know if there would be a season 2. But it was announced, soon after, a month or so later. I guess we gotta wait and see. But as of right now, there was no plans to do a 4th season. It has not been funded. We don't know what the roster would look like. A lot of the guys have already left, so I'm not sure. But I do agree that they wrapped up a lot of cool storylines with Pentagon, and he finally became champion. Dario Cueto got shot, which shocked the hell out of me. They did a lot of cool stuff. So, I'm looking forward to seeing, hopefully, the show being brought back. But to answer your question, have I ever felt fulfilled before for my wrestling pay-per-view? The WWE rarely does a pay-per-view where they wrap up storylines all in one show, and they feel fulfilling. Like Ultima Lucha Trace, they wrapped up a lot of storylines in the matter of 4 episodes, but they also left a little cliffhangers for future seasons if they do them. They said to be continued at the end of episode 4 of Ultima Lucha Trace, part 4 of Ultima Lucha Trace. Not one show comes to mind as fulfilling. Maybe WrestleMania 30 with Daniel Bryan becoming world champion. That Money in the Bank 2011, just because Punk winning the belt, it felt fulfilling. Again, they did the right thing. Not many other shows, feel that way for me. Not many other shows. WrestleMania 28, I thought was a great example. I really loved WrestleMania 28. 31, another show where I felt they made a lot of good booking decisions by and large. Triple H beating Kane notwithstanding. By and large, that was a really, really good show, and it felt fulfilling because they did a lot of the right things, with Rollins becoming champion and Orton and Rollins and their great match, and everything else in that show is really, really good. So that felt fulfilling to an extent, but none more so than Ultima Lucha Trace. So I got to agree with you there. Jeremy B. from Facebook, do you think WWE will do a double turn with the Usos and Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin? I don't think so. I know what you're talking about because I know Gable or Benjamin kicked one of the Usos, or I think it was Kofi Kingston in the back that allowed Chad Gable to pin Kofi. I wouldn't look at that as a heel turn. I look at it as it more being opportunistic, and they're both babyface tag teams anyway. The Usos are so great as heels, I don't know why you would turn them babyface. Maybe that's where they're going with this, but I feel like having the Usos as heels and Gable and Benjamin as babyfaces makes the most sense. Why would you fuck that up, So maybe that would give the Usos more opponents, but with who? With the fucking Colognes? Not Brazongo, they're babyfaces. The Colognes, fucking, the Ascension, who cares? So I would keep the battle lines firmly in place with the Usos and Gable and Benjamin. I don't really think there's an issue there. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Next question from Jeremy. Do you think they should make Swan and Alexander an official tag team on Raw and have them compete in the tag team division? Absolutely. Anything to get them off 205 Live. And I guess you could still have them in the Cruiserweight division, but also working on Raw and tag team matches. I would, be fine with that, but I fucking hate, as everyone else does, for the most part, I don't want to speak for everyone, but it seems like most people would agree with me here, that I hate how they just relegate and, just subject everyone in the Cruiserweight division to solely 205 Live. And that's it. They're segregated from the rest of the roster. I'm not a fan of that at all. That's why people do not care about the Cruiserweights. Because we see the same people and the same matches every single week. And you could say that about Raw too, but at least they're allowed to go do their own thing in other divisions and whatnot. They can go in the tag team division if they want to and do whatever else. The Cruiserweights, that's not the case with them, unfortunately. And Alexander and Rich Swann, especially Alexander, I think could be big beyond the Cruiserweight division. And if they won't put him in the mid-card scene right now, having him face, The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship, then having him go for the tag titles, I think would be great. Them against Rollins and Ambrose would be a fucking great match, I'd imagine. Them with the Revival when they come back, the Hardy Boys when they come back, all these other tag teams, the Club and so many other tag teams, I think that'd be better off. I think the Raw tag team division would be better off with Swann and Alexander joining the ranks. Having them just wither away in the Cruiserweight ranks for no reason, I think, is a total waste of them. So, yeah, having them, chase the tag titles, I think would be great, and also something different from the Cruiserweights, which we have yet to see yet in WWE. Ross S. from Facebook, would you call WrestleMania 23 or would you call WrestleMania 23 an insanely underrated WrestleMania match-wise? That's a good question. So I have the WrestleMania 23 card up in front of me. Let's look at it right now. Let's see. Trust the good old Wikipedia. I want to open. There we go. There we go. Select. Okay. So WrestleMania 23. It wasn't one of my favorite WrestleManias. Again, I wasn't around for it, but having watched it back, I think I watched it once a few years ago, and that was it. I haven't watched it back since because I didn't think it was that great. Match-wise, underrated. Let's see. Money in the Bank with Kennedy winning, I thought was a pretty good match. Kane and Khali was absolutely awful and one of the worst Mania matches I've ever seen. So, I don't know about that, but Benoit and MVP, real solid match. They would have better matches down the road, but still a really good match. Taker and Batista, great match. People said that was the match of the night. I would say Cena and Michaels was match of the night, but that's just me. ECW Originals versus The New Breed. Pretty basic 8-man tag team match. Bobby and Umaga. It wasn't a great match per se, but it was a fun spectacle with McMahon and Trump involved. Melina and Ashley Lumberjill match for the women's title. Match sucked. And like I said, Michaels and Cena. So underrated match-wise, I would not say so. It's a pretty average WrestleMania in my opinion. The two title matches I think are great. Cena and Michaels and Taker Batista, but everything else you could really do without. That's not the best Money in the Bank I've ever seen. Benoit and MVP would have better matches. The 8-man tag team match was total television throwaway. Lashley and Umaga was fun, but nothing must-see. If you take away McMahon and Trump and Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I would not call that an underrated WrestleMania match-wise, but it's not a bad WrestleMania. I just would not call it underrated. Next question from Ross as well. What Undertaker WrestleMania match would you call underrated? Speaking of underrated, RJ's gonna love this answer, but Undertaker and Ric Flair from WrestleMania 18, I do not think gets the credit it deserves. I think that was the first great Undertaker match at WrestleMania. Maybe not like amazing, but really, really good Undertaker match. Because before that, you had... that's a lie, because Undertaker and Triple H, that might also be underrated too from WrestleMania 17, because when you talk about great Taker matches, people talk a lot about, the 27 match with Taker and Triple H, the 28 match inside Hell in a Cell, the end of an era, whatever. But beyond that, the third match I thought was also really, really good. The first one at WrestleMania 17. So I would say that's underrated. Taker and Ric Flair also very much so. I would definitely call that the most underrated Taker match in Mania history. Just because it doesn't get talked about a lot in favor of, Punk and Taker and Michaels and Taker and Triple H. And I get that, but Taker and Ric Flair was also really, really good in one of Taker's first really, really good WrestleMania matches. And I thought they really brought the best out of each other on that night. And the build was great too. Next question. Who would have a bigger impact on the main roster between Drew McIntyre, Adam Cole, or Aleister Black? Great question. Of the three, I think they can all be big stars. I don't know if they would strap the rocket to Drew McIntyre like they should have years ago as like a WWE champion. I mean, to be a star in NXT is one thing, but you've seen what they've done to guys like Shinsuke and Bobby Roode and others, and they're not ruined, but they're not exactly being utilized the way they should be. McIntyre's back on the roster. Let's put him back in 3MB. I'm just kidding. Maybe not McIntyre. Adam Cole can be huge. I think Adam Cole can be a big star for them. But I think Aleister Black is so different from anything we've ever seen in WWE. I'm going to say Aleister Black. The guy can put someone away in a minute. And he's another guy, a lot like Asuka, who I fear for when they get to the main roster because they might not utilize him the right way. Like Asuka can beat people in the matter of minutes. Yeah, Aleister Black, when he goes on the main roster, he's going to have trouble beating fucking Apollo Crews in a 10-minute match. Like, it shouldn't be that way. This guy, when he gets in the main roster, he should be putting people away in the matter of a minute, if not less. That's what's so appealing about Aleister Black in NXT. The guy's finish, the whole, entrance, the persona, the whole package is phenomenal. I would not change a single thing. WWE, for some reason, likes to change all these things about people when they come up from NXT. Oh, we gotta call him the rock star, the artist known as Shinsuke Nakamura. Like, fucking stop with that shit. They keep the entrance, but, the in-ring style, the character, the promos, they change everything about anyone who comes up from NXT. Again, if it's not broke, don't fucking fix it. Leave Aleister Black alone. And I'm worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet, but I'm just saying, I think Black can be a big star. All three guys can be big stars, but Black, again, is different from anyone we've ever seen in WWE. So I think he can have a real huge impact in the main roster if they brought him up and he squashed, let's say, like a Baron Corbin in a matter of a minute the night after WrestleMania. Something like that. So I really think Aleister Black has the potential to be something huge in WWE if they allow him to be. At the Average Grunt from Twitter, his first question here, 2002-2003 Brock Lesnar versus 2014-2015 Brock Lesnar. Which one had the better matches, feuds, and moments? All right, that's a great question. Okay, so we're not talking about like Brock Lesnar modern day. You're talking solely Brock Lesnar from 2014 to 2015, so that's a great question. Not like 2016 Brock Lesnar, who had an awful in-ring career, in my opinion. And this year has been a lot better. Anyway, so 02 to 03, matches and moments and feuds that he had. So 02, he became the first ever, the youngest ever WWE champion at SummerSlam 2002 in a great match with The Rock. He had a great feud with The Undertaker. He had a lot of fun matches with Big Show. Going into 03, a lot of fun matches with Kurt Angle. A lot of great moments and matches from that time period. Going forward, I think that was about it. Like 03 was largely Kurt Angle and Big Show for Brock Lesnar. He didn't feud with many other people. I think that's about it. Did he feud with anyone else in like late 03? Hardcore Holly, that was it. Okay, so 2014-2015 Brock Lesnar. He had that quick match with the Big Show as well, Royal Rumble, but it lasted all of 2 minutes. The match with Taker WrestleMania fucking blew. That was awful. That match sucked. He had a big moment when he ended the streak, but the match itself was terrible. I don't care what anyone says. That match was awful. Beyond that, beating John Cena for the world title at SummerSlam. That was, a good match for different reasons and a great moment when he won back the belt. The triple threat match of the Rumble I thought was amazing and one of the best matches all year with Rollins and Cena and Lesnar at Royal Rumble 2015. So that would stand above the rest. The match at Mania with him and Reigns, I think 2015 was like the peak of Brock Lesnar, the modern day Brock Lesnar, when he had a lot of great feuds and matches. Him and Reigns didn't have the best feud, but the match was great. Lesnar and Rollins had a fun match. Lesnar and Taker had a lot of good matches later on in the year. If I had to choose, definitely 02-03 Brock Lesnar, because it seemed like 2014, 2015 Brock Lesnar had a few misses here and there, and the matches were really good, but the 02-03 Brock Lesnar was having great matches almost consistently. It's hard to top that Hell in the Cell match with Undertaker. It's hard to top the WrestleMania match with Kurt Angle, the Iron Man match with Angle, the SummerSlam match with The Rock. A lot of awesome matches there, so I'm gonna go with 02-03 Brock Lesnar. Had the better matches, feuds, and maybe the 2014-2015 Brock Lesnar had better moments, but I would still give the edge to the 02-03 early Brock Lesnar. At RJ_Marceau, my brother Mr. Marceau, RJ's question was, and I love this question a lot. I know Marlon Phillips at Marlon the Man agreed with me on the Twitter machine last night when he saw this question from RJ. Since the rebranding of NXT in 2012, who would you say is on the Mount Rushmore of NXT? You know what? That's such a great fucking question, and I've never seen anyone ask that before. Not only to me, but like anywhere. And maybe I might be mistaken, I'm not looking in the right places, but that's a great question. And it's not like NXT's been around for a year, and it's way too soon to be saying that. Like NXT by this point has been around for over 5 years. That's a pretty long time. Not a long time, but it's a substantial amount of time. So I think it's pretty fitting to start making your Mount Rushmore of NXT. In my opinion, if I had to make a Mount Rushmore of NXT, the people who had the biggest impact on the brand, and not only just title reigns, but just had the biggest impact in different eras of NXT. A guy like Seth Rollins would not be on here, which might surprise some people. Like, I know he was the first ever NXT champion, but he was there for a cup of coffee. He was there for maybe 5 or 6 months. So was Kevin Owens, which I'll talk about more in a moment, but with Seth Rollins, he won the belt, and he had a good reign, but he got called up later on in 2012, and then he was gone right after. So, and many people were not watching NXT at that point. So anyway, my Mount Rushmore of NXT would be Sami Zayn, because he was the heart and soul of NXT from like 2013 through 2016. How could you not have a Mount Rushmore of NXT without Sami Zayn? Like, that's not possible. So Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. Now again, like a lot like Seth Rollins, he was not there for a long time. His stint officially lasted from December of 2014 to August of 2015. He got called up in May of 2015, but he was still there in NXT for a few more months. But he had such a big impact on that brand. From the moment he debuted, had that great debut match with CJ Parker, attacking Sami Zayn later on in the night, and then facing Neville and Zayn and Balor on episodes of NXT TV and on the specials and whatnot. Owens, I thought NXT really started to hit its stride, and in 2014 NXT was already awesome, but 2015 NXT was really when they really started to get the ball rolling. Really started to get the ball rolling with NXT when Kevin Owens was champion, and he was a dominant champion. He was really, really good. So I'm gonna say Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Neville. How could you not have an NXT Mount Rushmore without Neville? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Neville was champion for almost a year. Had a lot of great matches. He dominated NXT in 2014. He was there in 2012, 2013, a bit there in 2015. So Neville, absolutely. And Finn Balor. Finn Balor was there for a while as well, and he had a great reign. He really helped carry NXT when Neville and Zayn was gone. He was injured, but Owens was there. And after Owens left and after Neville left, Balor really helped carry NXT for close to a year and a half. So I'm going to say Finn Balor, Neville, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn would be my Mount Rushmore of NXT. Other honorable mentions, I could see if someone wanted to say a Bobby Roode, who again was there for a year, and he was great. Nakamura there for exactly a year as well. He was great, but I don't know. I don't think they had as big of an impact on the brand as the 4 people I mentioned. There was someone else, too, I wanted to bring up real quick. Big E was there for a cup of coffee. I know he was one of the first NXT champions. Bo Dallas, same thing, was not really that pivotal in NXT's history. Who else did I want to say? Again, Charlotte and Sasha, they weren't there for a long time either. They played a pivotal role. I think the 4 horsewomen have to have a Mount Rushmore of their own for NXT, but that's with the guys only, just those 4. There was someone else I wanted to mention. It's not coming to me right now. Tyler Breeze was never really the main player in NXT. Baron Corbin. I thought there was someone else, but yeah, Balor, Neville, Owens, and Zayn would be my Mount Rushmore of NXT. At E13A from Twitter, revive, remake, leave Rick Rude, Randy Savage, and Roddy Piper. So I'm not really sure what you mean by this question. Like bring them back to life, remake into a different wrestler, and then leave, like leave them dead. Like I don't know what you mean by that, but for whatever you mean by that, revive Savage, remake Piper, and leave Rude. What was the first time WWE messed up with the brand split? From the fucking get-go. I know we were talking about this on Twitter, Emmanuel, but this company has not done a brand split right from the moment they started it in 2002. They drafted people, and then they fucking swapped shows a month later. So from the get-go, they messed up the brand split then. Yes, it still meant something from like 02 to 05. After 05, it really started to go downhill, in my opinion. And then from that point forward, it was a complete joke. And then people would switch shows without, any rhyme or reason, for no apparent reason whatsoever. So they fucked it up even then. But they were messing up their own brand split almost from the get-go. Drafting Triple H, but let's trade him back to Raw. Like, really? That was in 04, but they did a lot of dumb stuff in 02 as well with their brand split. Like, Rock went to SmackDown, but he showed up on Raw anyway. It's like, even then, they knew this thing was not going to work the way they wanted it to. And it's still really good, but it's not fulfilling its full potential because the company doesn't know what they want to do with it. So it's not like, the brand split doesn't mean anything now, but 20 years ago or 15 years ago it was great. No, it wasn't. It wasn't great 15 years ago. SmackDown was great 15 years ago, maybe Raw, but the brand split, people were showing up on different shows all the fucking time. So even then the brand split, the waters were muddied, the lines were blurred. It's not like they've been always doing the brand split phenomenally. They have not always done it the right way. From the get-go, they fucked it up. So they've always had an issue with doing this brand split the right way. At Brad Berdar from the Twitter machine, his question here for a couple questions. First one being, as great as the fashion file segments are, as great as the fashion file segments are, is WWE hurting the credibility of Breezango by not giving them enough opportunities to showcase how great they are, how they both are in the ring? Yeah, they are. I would like to see them become a more serious tag team. I find them very entertaining. The segments, some are really not all that funny. The Pulp Fiction one was not that funny at all. This week was a bit better. But at least it's getting them over with the audience, getting them familiar. I will say this. I do, as much as you do, want to see them succeed in the ring and give them more opportunities to shine as great wrestlers, because I know they're both very good athletes. I realize that. I understand that. I want to see more of that as well. However, they weren't getting the opportunities a year ago. The guys weren't even on TV. So I'd rather have them on TV doing the goofy stuff and getting over than not on TV at all. Because a year ago, these guys were never really on TV. They were a fucking joke. And they would lose to American Alpha whenever they would have a match in the matter of a minute. And no one gave a shit about them. So they were never really taken seriously as a tag team. I don't think they ever will be. Which is a shame because they are really good in the ring, like you said. But at the same time, at least it's better than what they were doing a year ago, which was nothing. His next question, should WWE have a qualifying match at the Cruiserweights, where one of them should be in the heavyweight division, such as Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali, can compete on Raw's team at Survivor Series? That's a great idea. We kind of had that last year with Braun Strowman. He was a question mark. We weren't really sure where he was going around this time a year ago, but they put him on Team Raw. He was handled perfectly. They can always have, that random, wild card competitor on Team Raw where it's not like a Dean Ambrose or a Seth Rollins or a Samoa Joe or a Strowman or whatever. It could be a random mid-carder who they plan to do something with. It would be kind of random because they haven't really done much lately. I know Alexander and Swan have been doing their thing, so it's not going to happen. But it would be cool to see Alexander in that spot, given some time to shine, put him in the ring with AJ Styles at Survivor Series. That would be fucking awesome. But I don't see that happening, but I do think it's a good idea, though, to give one of those guys an opportunity to hopefully break away from 205 Live. And they can still do the Cruiserweight division if they want to, but I really hate how these guys are all segregated from the rest of the roster. I'm not a big fan of that at all. It makes people just not care about the Cruiserweights when they're in their own little box. They should be able to mix it up with the big boys. They should be able to mix it up with people that are on their same playing field, same playing level in terms of how good they are. Some of these guys are better than the people in the heavyweight division, so they should be given the opportunity to shine, but I just do not see that happening anytime soon. And his third question here, would you at some point like to see an NXT superstar make their main roster debut by entering and winning the Royal Rumble match? Although I can't think of anyone they can do that with right now, other than maybe Drew McIntyre, which wouldn't typically be a debut. In a couple of years, I think it would definitely ensure that a superstar gets over on their first night. Yeah, I think that'd be really, really good. It can't be someone completely unknown that people who don't watch NXT wouldn't know who they are. Like a Nakamura, not everyone knew who he was when he got called up, but most people did. From the buzz that he got in NXT, most people did, and they knew the theme song, blah, blah, blah. Nakamura, I think, would have been the perfect guy to do that with, either Nakamura or Samoa Joe earlier this year, but they opted to bring them up after the Rumble with Samoa Joe and after WrestleMania with Shinsuke Nakamura, so that wasn't happening. But I think Nakamura and Joe would have been the two people I would have done that with. Currently in NXT, McIntyre, I do not see him winning the Rumble. I don't think he doesn't really, not that he isn't capable of winning the Rumble, but I do not see McIntyre right now as like that guy where he can be like the main event guy going for a world championship or WrestleMania. For people who don't watch NXT, they'd be like, why is this 3MB guy back and, winning the Royal Rumble? That makes no sense, So it needs to be someone who has fanfare, like Adam Cole. Like, it's too early for him right now, but maybe if he builds a name for himself between now and maybe not the upcoming Rumble, but like the following year's Rumble, if he's still in NXT by that point, he'd be a cool one to do that with. Other than that, there's really no one in NXT at the moment I could see them doing that with that would fit the mold of winning the Royal Rumble until they bring in a guy like, Adam Cole's a big name. I'm trying to think of an even bigger name than that they could do that with. Like a Nakamura would be the biggest thing. Even Bobby Roode would have been cool, but they didn't do that either. So, I don't know, but a McIntyre might be a bit far-fetched. I think Adam Cole would be great for that spot, but definitely not in time for this year's Rumble. But hey, it'd be awesome because I'll be there. Adam Cole coming out, debuting, and winning the Rumble. I would not complain. I think people would go nuts. But it might be a bit too soon by that point. At Mr. Singleton16 from the Twitter machine, his question was, any school memories you can associate with wrestling? For example, I started watching wrestling around late 2004 in second grade. A lot of wrestling memories with school. I won't go into all of them right now, but I've said before that I was not the best student, not that I was failing classes, but I was not focusing on my studies, so to speak, in like 8th grade when I first started watching wrestling. It was largely 8th grade, a little bit in 7th grade too, but largely 8th grade when I technically started watching when I was in 7th grade. But it was mostly in 8th grade when I would get bad grades, and my parents blamed it on watching wrestling, and I would be grounded from watching wrestling, so when they weren't home, and this is bad to admit, but it's not that terrible, but like when they weren't home, I'd watch Raw, both watching the TV through the glass window in the other room, so I could get a good view of the front door in my house, and also the driveway, so if I ever saw anyone drive in, or if my older brother came downstairs, who would totally have snitched on me that I was watching wrestling, then I would watch Raw. Then I would turn on Raw and whatever, and I would watch it that way. When no one was home, and to make sure they didn't know about it, blah blah blah. So that was funny. I will always remember those moments, for better or for worse. But beyond that, I never used to watch Raw in full until maybe like 10th grade. Like watch it live on Mondays. I would watch maybe the first hour, then go to bed around like 9-10 o'clock. And then after that, I would get home, I would watch Raw. Sometimes I would watch it on Tuesdays after school. I would watch it before I go to school, when I got home. So I have a lot of school-related memories in watching wrestling, especially when I was in grade school, especially like in middle school, especially in high school too. In high school, sometimes when I lived at my grandmother's house for a year, my freshman year of high school, we had not that we didn't have internet, we didn't have, so we had TV, we had cable, but we didn't have DVR. So I couldn't record Raw, and this was before it was a lot easier to watch episodes of Raw in full online and shit. So I would literally go to YouTube, where people would upload Raw in parts, like you do now, like you see now with Daily Motion and shit, but I would have to watch it through YouTube, like up until I had to go to bed on Tuesday nights. And nowadays, I couldn't even fathom watching Raw that late because I fear I'm going to miss something, you know? Maybe not nowadays because nothing ever really happens on Raw, but now I do so much with social media and I interact with people that I kind of need to keep up to date with what's going on in WWE. But yeah, a lot of school-related memories when it comes to wrestling, even college. I mean, I would watch wrestling. I would watch Raw on Monday Nights Live in my dorm room. Watching with RJ, I've said that before, always watching Raw and NXT and the pay-per-views and the NXT Live specials with RJ whenever those aired on my junior year of college. So yeah, a lot of great fond memories of watching wrestling throughout middle school, high school, and college. His second question here, what are your plans for Halloween this year? All I plan to do is watch Halloween episodes and eat candy. Hey dude, that's not a bad way to spend a Halloween, I'll tell you that much. That sounds pretty great to me. Halloween's on a Tuesday this year. So for me, unfortunately, not that it's terrible, but I got to go to class. I have class, my graduate classes on Monday nights and Tuesday nights. So I won't even be around on Halloween night until like 10 o'clock is when I get home. So I'll be in class back to back on Halloween night. My teacher said they're bringing in candy, which is great. My classes are awesome. I'm enjoying them, but I wish I could be home either watching SmackDown, which I've done, and I watched Raw on Halloween before. I've watched SmackDown on Halloween, Impact, Main Event for fuck's sake. I've watched everything on Halloween before. But anyway, when it comes to Halloween next week, gotta go to class. Maybe during the day I'm around until 2:30 in the afternoon on Tuesdays. So once I get done everything that needs to get done, I might watch, Hocus Pocus. You know what? Actually, usually what I've done on Halloween for the past number of years is watch Ghostbusters. So I'll probably do that. And it sucks because I love Halloween. It's probably not, it used to be, nowadays it's a bit harder, but Halloween has always been my favorite holiday of the year, even more so than Christmas for like the past decade now, because I just love Halloween and Halloween movies. But yeah, I'll probably watch some Halloween shit and eat some candy during the day before I have to go to class. But like, it sucks because in past years when I was at school, and I went to school up in Beverly, Mass, which is near Boston, I would take the train into Salem, and we would go to Salem on Halloween. I didn't do that freshman year or senior year, because senior year I had stuff to do with my internship on Halloween. And thankfully the guy gave me the day off. It was the day after Hell in the Cell, and I was fucking tired as shit. So I got to stay home, which was great, or stay in my dorm, whatever, work out of there. But sophomore year and junior year, I went to Salem, Mass, which is basically Halloween Town on Halloween night. On Halloween, both days, which was fucking great, and it was so much fun. So unfortunately, I can't do that this year, but I will be hanging out, eating candy, and watching Halloween movies and episodes. Maybe a Halloween episode of fucking, SmackDown or something, which I've done before, but maybe an old Halloween Havoc pay-per-view, who knows, in the afternoon before I have to go to class at night. Following question here is our final question for the day from @Scarlet1 from the Twitter machine. So what are you looking forward to in November? Well, like I said at the start of the show, meeting fucking Christopher Lloyd, dude. Meeting Christopher Lloyd on November 12th. I gotta go. I have not yet bought my tickets, but I have to be there if it's the last thing I do. Dave Bautista will be there too, but I have to meet Christopher Lloyd. I don't care how much it costs. I have to meet Christopher Lloyd. Have to. Can't wait for that. So that's what I'm looking forward to most in November. Thanksgiving, War Games, I'm very much looking forward to. I'm currently planning on watching that with Noah, @NJWade_ on the Twitter machine, and Jason at Jason's place. Beyond that, there's a Survivor Series pay-per-view that month too. Completely forgot. So yeah, November should be good. I think that's all I got going on for the most part. Pretty sure. December's going to be lit though. I tweeted about that a couple days ago, but on December 1st, I'm going to an indie show, the Northeast Wrestling shows I go to. That night, they have Corey Graves there. Cody Rhodes I've already met a bunch of times. But Corey Graves is going to be there. Can't wait to meet him. Ric fucking Flair and Christian. So I go from meeting Christopher Lloyd and Batista in November, likely, to meeting Christian in December. I am the luckiest man alive. I'm meeting all my favorites in the matter of like a month and a half. Less than a month. Less than 30 days. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That's December 1st. December 8th, I think, is when they're airing the Psych special, the Christmas special, on USA Network, my favorite show of all time, so I cannot wait for that. Very much looking forward to that, airing on USA Network. December 9th, I'm going to a wedding. December 15th, the following Friday, I'll be at Final Battle, which I cannot fucking wait for. Ring of Honor's December pay-per-view. They're WrestleMania with Noah. I cannot wait for that in New York City, which I already found. I just found out this past week they booked Jay Lethal versus Marty Scurll for that show. Take my fucking money. Or they already did. I already bought my tickets a few months ago. But I cannot wait for that. That's on Friday. Star Wars comes out, episode 8, that same day. So I'm going to have to go see it on Thursday because I cannot miss Final Battle. So I'm going to have to go see Star Wars on Thursday, Final Battle on Friday. My girlfriend's coming to visit at the end of the month in December. Christmas, obviously. There's a lot going on. The Clash of Champions pay-per-view is at the bottom of the list, but it's still on there nonetheless. A lot of stuff to look forward to in December, and that's when I finish up my classes, and I'll be off on break for a while. I'm very much looking forward to it. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for checking out #AskGSM, episode 204 here today. Your guys' support is what keeps the show running along smoothly here, so thank you so much for that, as always. If you want to send in a question for a future episode, tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. If I like your tweet, sometimes I don't always see it, but if I like your tweet, that means it's on the show. Usually, almost immediately, I'll put the questions in the document, in my Word doc, so I can organize them and shit. But if you get the like on your tweet, that means it's in the video for sure, 9 times out of 10. Beyond that, you can send me a question on Facebook on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. All the links are down below, by the way, if you forget any of this or you don't hear me or if I'm not, comprehensible, if I'm not clear enough, it's all in the description box down below. You can also drop a question on the Facebook page itself. And also in this very video in the comment section down below, include your question and I'll feature it in next week's edition. So with all that being said, guys, we'll be back here next Wednesday with another all-new episode of #AskGSM. Again, it'll be episode 205, but it will not be Cruiserweight themed. No one would watch it. I hate to say it, but it's true. Just kidding, guys, but that'll come on the 1st of November, and the day after Halloween, so hopefully I'm still chugging candy by that point. Anyway, guys, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, like I said, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Hopefully by the time you listen to this, we will have surpassed the 1 million mark for overall video views here on the channel. Thank you guys so much for that. I've been doing YouTube now for close to almost 9 years, 8.5 years, and I've made it this far with your support. We're also closing in on 1,500 subscribers, so I might do some sort of celebration video at some point in the very near future, maybe as soon as Friday here on the channel. Anyway, guys, have a great rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.